Rats and Roaches. This song, I love this song. It cracks me up. It's so funny. It's about this fellow with roaches and mice and rats infesting his kitchen and eating his food up. And it came from a very obscure local musician down in the Louisiana area named Silas Hogan. I guess he made some records and he was well known down there, but he never really became a star at the national level in blues music. The only reason I ever heard his song is because I was listening to an internet radio station, with streaming music broadcast that plays nothing but blues music. It's from the Atlanta Blues Society in Atlanta, Georgia. And they're an organization that supports blues music. And I heard this song on that internet station. It was performed by a group called Big Mike and the Booty Papas, which was a local group down in Atlanta. And man, the song was just so cool. I just loved it. The whole concept, it cracked me up. It's the kind of blues song that I really, really love because it's telling a really interesting story. And that's what good blues does. It tells stories that are interesting. Sometimes it tells stories that are clever and even a little bit funny. Now, Rats and Roaches was a little bit of a tricky song for the other guitar players because it sort of followed the standard 12-bar blues structure, except that some of the chords were sort of switched around. So instead of going from chord number 1 and then to chord number 2 and chord number 3, it would jump to chord number 3 and then back to chord number 1. So it used the same chords as usual, but they were in a different sequence. And so I'd dive into a different chord than the other guys expected. Because they weren't familiar with the song. And so once in a while you'll hear them, get lost, and be on the wrong chord just for about one beat. And then they'd catch it and jump back to the correct chord. And they did it so fast. It's really a tribute to their talent. In the song Rats and Roaches, I actually threw in a couple of lyrics of my own where I did a little variation on the original words of the song. The song mostly talks about, the rats and roaches that are going to eat up his beans and his rice. But I made a little change and made a reference to squirrels digging holes in between my walls in one of the verses. And I did that just as kind of a joking little reference to an incident that actually happened to us, because as many of you know, my wife Ann does rehabilitation of wildlife on a volunteer basis. And so she'd had some squirrels that got released close to us, and they actually came back to our house, and they found an opening, in an exhaust vent for the dryer, and actually climbed into our house in between the walls, and had intended to make a permanent home in there. Luckily, we tricked them into leaving the hole long enough for us to plug it up. And of course, they were furious at us. But so there's kind of a joking reference to that in this song, because that's the kind of infestation that we experienced. What was really cool was this couple dancing out there. They're doing this kind of slow dancing that I never would have really connected with blues music, but they were quite happy and content, and they did it well. So, who are we to complain, We could say somebody got up and danced while we were playing, so that's cool. This footage was all shot by my good friend Ernie Frasian. He did a great job of shooting this stuff. The lighting conditions were terrible, but he managed to get good pictures. And that camcorder of his produced really good sound. A surprisingly good sound, and I believe it was even in stereo. I sort of, when I listen to it, I can sort of tell that it's in stereo. So Ernie made a DVD of his own, but then he gave me all the raw footage, and I made my own different DVD, with my own cut of how I'd like the stuff to be presented. One of the things I did when I edited this DVD for myself was I sort of stitched together the parts of the performances that, really worked good and clicked well. And sometimes there would be a certain verse where, where we weren't, where the different guitar players weren't sounding that good together, and I basically snipped those parts out. So there might be an entire verse of the song where we just, we kind of got lost a little bit, and you'll never hear that because I dropped it on the cutting floor in the editing process. But Ernie got me great footage, good stuff to work with, which gave me flexibility editing. Like being able to fade back and forth to other shots of other musicians kind of breaks up the video a little bit, so it doesn't get too monotonous seeing the same very long scene too often. One of the things that I like to do when I'm playing blues is I use open G tuning, which is a different, non-standard tuning of the guitar strings. It's really well suited for blues. One of the real benefits of open G tuning is that it makes it much easier to use a guitar slide. You can have very sweet harmonious sounds sliding the metal slide up and down the neck. It has the other side benefit that major chords are extremely easy to play.